right, we are back talking Rutgers football on the Rutgers Football Report with Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post, fresh off not only a win, Ryan, but an historical victory for the Rutgers program in many ways as they blow out an Indiana program that we talked about last week that was just waiting to have another team annihilate them because they just were completely disinterested, and Rutgers took advantage, something they've never been able to do before, and it was great to see.
Yeah, I can't honestly. Most Rutgers wins you can see coming. Even if they're an upset, you can see like, oh, this team's vulnerable. Maybe they can do this right, and squeeze out a win. They're so rarely favored, especially in the conference games. So most Rutgers wins you see coming. I guess you could have seen this one coming. In no world could you have seen 38-3 coming. It is single-handedly, because of the margin of victory, in my 20 years of following Rutgers football, I would say this is in the top 3 most surprising outcomes I've seen. Like, it's not the most meaningful. It's not beating Louisville in 06. But they were both undefeated. I could tell you that was going to happen. I could tell you they could beat South Florida when South Florida was number 2 in 07. As far as, hey, Rutgers is going to win this game by 35 points, there is zero chance I would have believed it. And that makes it, if not number 1, certainly 2 or 3 in the most surprising outcomes I've seen in my 20 years following this program.
And really very impressed, too, with the defense more than anything. Even though the offense did a decent job, it was the defense that carried the day. It was great to see. And just you heard everything about his, the largest margin of victory, the least amount of points, all Big Ten program records. And there's a few others that we can get into. But that's just, look, it was great all the way around. And
it was really good coaching, Greg. Call it what it is. I mean, when you lose 52-3, like they did to Wisconsin, I mean, late in the season, your bowl hopes are now on the line. It would have been really easy for that team to pack it in, like really easy. And I gotta say, I thought it was. Now, I'm not even talking about just by Schiano. All the position coaches deserve credit. I mean, the fact that they kept that team motivated after 52-3, and again playing a 2-7 team, it's not like, oh, we have to get up for this opponent. Indiana's coming. Like, it just seemed like Rutgers must have put in a hell of a. I would love to be in a fly on the wall in the facility last week because clearly they had those kids' attention all week. I think the players obviously played well, but I think you got to tip your cap to the coaching staff last week because to go from 52-3 loss to 38-3 win, I don't care what the caliber of opponent is. That kind of 1 week momentum swing is almost unheard of.
And it was, and if you think about it, there was only one time this season where Rutgers went into a game that you felt they had a shot at winning with previous failure. In other words, the week before, bad performance. Okay, are they going to step it up? And the only game that did not happen was Northwestern. Every other, and they've been in this circumstance a few times this year, not to the extent of 38-3, but it's like it just shows you, like you said, how Schiano has this program thinking. You talk about that mantra of 1 week at a time.
Yeah, I mean, that's really impressive. For college kids to be able to do that, to turn the page that quickly. I know I cover the NFL. I know pro teams that let results linger. For the college kids to be able to turn the result that quickly is just super impressive.
And so it was also good for a variety of other reasons that we're going to get into now. They get off now. You just felt right off the bat, because again, I had a pretty good feeling about this game last week, and I was like, right off the bat, first play, fumble, and I'm like, hey, okay. I mean, this is what they need, because we know that they have to win these turnover battle games, and that's exactly what the start was. So they get up 7-0, and all of a sudden, they get up 2 touchdowns. Now, I want to show this one play here as we start taking a look at some plays. First of all, this is going to be the future of the team. That's why I wanted us, these next couple of plays here. And we're going to start, first of all, with Tyree Powell's interception here. And this is just a really not only instinctive interception, but athletic interception. I mean, that's the future. And this is a very talented kid that right off the bat, in his first opportunity to start with the 3 linebackers out, coming up with a big play like this to show everybody that, yeah, I mean, the future is going to be pretty good with the next wave of linebackers led by Powell.
Look at that play fake. Who are you faking with that play fake? Watch that play fake again.
I know, right?
I mean, the running back is a mile away from the ball. Like, all that is slowing down. All that is slowing down the timing of it. You just gave the defense an extra half a second to get in position because they're not biting on that play fake. That's just a wasted motion right there.
That's why Indiana's got quarterback problems too. So theirs worse than ours.
Rutgers was lucky in their regard that it got to face the backup quarterback.
Yes. And they took advantage of it. They did not take advantage of a bad Northwestern team, but they took advantage of this situation. So, okay, so that was, and again, Powell was in for Fatukasi, and I didn't even know. We weren't even talking about it. We know that there's always these injuries, but we had no idea that all 3 linebackers, including Fatukasi and Fogg, were not going to play. And that's exactly what happened. And it was just, it was also that much more surprising that they were able to come up with this type of defensive effort. All right, now here's the interception by Max Melton. And that is a really nice interception from a really talented corner who the team missed when he was out there a couple of games. And he has also got the type of ability to be one of those really good DBs that Greg Schiano might be able to get to the next level.
Absolutely. That's definitely where his future is. That looked like his brother hauling in the deep pass. That's what that looked like. They say DBs are wide receivers who can't catch. Max Melton has shown me multiple times this year he can catch plenty.
And then the last play is just the funny one, and that is the Raekwon O'Neal Mr. Touchdown late in the game to put it away. And we saw this last year against Ohio State. It's funny because when he caught the ball, it looked like if that was a running back, that would have been in the end zone 10 seconds ago. And it was like going in slow motion. It was like, wait a second, is he not going to make this? And he dove in to make sure that he got in there. It was kind of funny. It was great to see. And it took forever to figure out whether it was a legal play or not.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, even watching it back right now, I think that was a forward pass, but I'm not sure that was a lateral. But between that and the Dolphins guy who scored on Monday Night Football and got it overturned, look, that is a super athletic play to reach the ball over like that, not fumble, know where the end zone is, know where the pylon is. That is a super. I mean, you'd understand that in practice they ran that play many times to get it right.
Yes.
But not every time is Raekwon O'Neal diving over the pylon.
He probably never dove once. Yeah.
Correct. So that is I mean, I don't know when the last time he dove. I mean, looking at the size of him, he probably has been a lineman for a long time. He probably doesn't have high school running back experience. So that is just super, super impressive. I mean, that's athletic. Look, I can remember when he was recruited. I was covering the team when he was recruited, and I can remember the coaching staff then saying, this guy looks like an offensive lineman, but he is a rare level athlete. And that, I obviously haven't stayed, up to the day-to-day of Raekwon O'Neal, but when I saw that play, that's what that reminded me of the coaching staff that recruited him telling me, don't be fooled by his size. He's an athlete. He could play tight end. And I was like, come on, he can't play tight end. You watch that. You say, okay, if he lost 50 pounds, he could play tight end.
Yeah. And look, his overall abilities have not yet reached the level that I think Rutgers fans thought they were getting. That doesn't mean that he still can't get to that point. But I think a lot of fans thought when he was out there early in his career, like you said, there was a lot to like about his background. And I think maybe there was some talk about, could he be an Anthony Davis type? That has not transpired. But the importance of having him on the field and not having him on the field, look what happened to Rutgers this year. He comes out over that 2 or 3 game stretch, and that was like the worst 2 or 3 game stretch for the offensive line. And again, it doesn't mean that he is Anthony Davis, but it just shows you how important he is to that offensive line.
Correct. People sometimes confuse like overall talent with value to the team.
Yes.
And just because a guy might not be all Big Ten, he might be more valuable to Rutgers than the all Big Ten left tackle is to Ohio State, because the drop off to their second guy probably isn't as big as the drop off from Rutgers starter to their backup guy.
But and by the way, the offensive line, and they've been now looks like they're kind of getting a rhythm going. They're going to need it against Penn State. We're going to talk about it in a minute but look, good showing for the offensive line as well. That was their best game of the season. The Michigan game might have been their second best, and maybe the Michigan game was their best because of the opponent they were playing. But it's nice to see too, because they have a lot of moving parts still, especially, defensive linemen converting over to the offensive line. Yeah. So there's at least hope. Again, we talked about last week with the new class coming in as well, that the offensive line will hopefully just keep getting better and better, not only as the season wears on, and hopefully there's an extra game this year, but also in the seasons to come.
You know what? It's not even about the extra game. I just haven't covered the sport for so long. Coaches love bowl games, not for the bowl game. They love them for the extra 3 weeks
That's
of
right.
practice, where their seniors kick up their feet, basically. And, 2 of the 3 weeks of practice are just all of next year's team, all the freshmen and redshirt freshmen practice for 2 weeks while the seniors basically kick up their feet and go in the weight room. And then the last week or so, they prepare for the bowl game. But the coaches love those first 2 weeks because they consider it basically a second spring practice.
Okay, now comes Penn State week. And it probably doesn't come this week, this season, but at some point, as Rutgers gets better, they need to knock off Penn State probably more than any other team, because we know it's not going to happen to Ohio State. If we measured Michigan and Penn State, we definitely say Penn State, and it's because of the geography. If there's going to be that big
and the psychological, I mean, they haven't beat them since 1988. I think it's 14 straight losses. The recruiting, the geography is all important, but there's just, look, I know I'm one of the people who asked the question. So I know those guys right now are getting peppered with, how come you never beat Penn State? What is it about Penn State? Tell me how you were close this time. Tell me how you were this close this time. How come it always seems like one thing goes wrong against Penn State that doesn't go wrong against anybody else? Whether it's a couple years ago, Gio Ricchino, who was a scrappy quarterback, dropped a touchdown pass when he on a wide open play when he was the receiver on a trick play, dropped it. Gary Nova had a great year, 2014. What was his bad game? Penn State. So they lost, I want to say they lost by 3 and he threw 4 interceptions. It just seems like for whatever reason, there is a psychological element to Rutgers Penn State that they have to get over that hump.
And speaking of 1988, here is the last play that Rutgers needed to make in 1988 in order to secure their victory. Look at this. Look at this footage. I love this footage. This is old-time college football for me. And there it is. And Rutgers rejoicing. Joe Paterno on the sideline. This was actually one of the very few sub-500 seasons for Joe Paterno.
I love those helmets.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the Rutgers helmets?
Yeah, the NJ Rutgers helmet.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find that one. I mean, I could find it, but I haven't been able to find one that I could use for the template.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was nice. And you know what? I used to, back when I was young, uh, I think I was probably like around, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 years old. So what is that? 45, let's just say 45 years ago. So whatever that was. Um, I used to, on every Sunday morning, they used to have the like half hour Joe Paterno show. And there was not a lot of stuff on TV back then, sports wise, especially in college football in the New York area. But I used to every Sunday put it on, and you'd have Joe Paterno, and you'd have all the highlights, and I actually, because of that, it's like I was kind of like, I didn't hate Penn State. I was like, oh, I was intrigued. I was a kid, and it was they were pretty close to where I lived. But that was so I have a lot of good memories of Penn State and growing up and Joe Paterno. It really sucks what happened to the university under his watch, and we're not going to get into that, but just Joe Paterno in general was just an incredible figure in college football for me growing up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what really sucks is what happened to all the victims.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
But no, look, I mean, that team was coached, if I remember, by Dick Anderson, actually,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Who was Paterno's longtime assistant both before that game, and then he went back to Penn State after he was fired by Rutgers. So not a surprise that Rutgers had success with a Paterno protege beating them. And 88 was an interesting year. Any longtime Rutgers fans will remember they beat Penn State and Michigan State that year, but lost to Vanderbilt and a couple other head scratchers. And so they missed, back when you didn't go to a bowl if you were 6-4 or 7-3 or whatever. They didn't go to a bowl, but they had a really good team in '88.
Yeah, they also went 5-6 that season too. So both Penn State and Rutgers. Okay, so early in the week, I stumble across this. Here are 6 reasons why Rutgers will upset Penn State. And I went, no, don't do that. Don't say that. That's not what I want to hear. I am a fan. I do not want to hear about Rutgers upsetting Penn State, because that just, first of all, it just doesn't ever happen. And second of all, when you say it's going to happen, it ain't happening. So, this was from Keith Sargeant in the New York Post. And I understand everything he's talking about, because he's right about everything he's talking about of why Rutgers has like an outside shot to win this game. But whether they could pull it off, that's another story.
Obviously Keith's one of my best friends. We had him on this show earlier this season, I think Michigan week or Michigan State week. Look, that's I'm with him. I'm with him. I think there's you go into this game some years and Rutgers has no shot. I think Rutgers has a shot in this game. Just what's happened to Penn State the last couple weeks. I'm not there day in, day out, but the game means less to their fans. It means less to their players. 3 weeks ago, they were dreaming of the college football playoff. Now they're headed to like the, Pinstripe Bowl. Like, there's just an apathy there. And look, maybe they get up for Rutgers, but having covered the game, I know it means a lot more to Rutgers players and Rutgers fans. So you could see where if they have a couple of turnovers, and that's Rutgers' formula. You mentioned the Indiana game. It reminds me of Greg Schiano's first game back, the Michigan State opener last year.
Yes.
If they have a couple of turnovers and Rutgers has momentum to go with the energy, I could certainly see where Penn State has oh no, we're going to lose to Rutgers of all these teams, and then plays a little tight. And I could just see it because they're just in that kind of slide right now. That everything they were playing for feels like it's gone. And you're asleep against a team that cares much more than you do. You expect to just wake up, roll out of bed, and beat Rutgers if you're a Penn State player. So if I could see where it's a game where Rutgers suddenly leads 14-0 and then has to hang on against a surging Penn State. Oh crap, what's about to happen to us? We better get it into gear, and it's too late. I could see that kind of game for Rutgers.
And by the way, if it's 14-0, one of those scores definitely is a turnover or special teams play, because this Penn State defense is very good. And it's still very good, even though they lost a couple of key guys, thank goodness, that won't be in the game this week. But it's that good that you just know it's one of those games that just you're not going to see. It's not going to be a pretty game to watch for Rutgers fans, because they're not going to. They're not. I'd be shocked if they even had more than one drive that was longer than like 70 yards. I just can't see it. No matter how much Penn State thinks about other things this week, Rutgers is going to need some other different kind of ways to pull this game out. And that's okay with me. I don't care how. Look, Illinois beat Penn State in a very ugly game. That's what Rutgers has to do. They have to win a very ugly game against Penn State, because Clifford has been banged up all season. I mean, that offensive line has been as bad as an offensive line as I've seen from a good Penn State team in a long time. They can't run the football because of the offensive line. Clifford's getting banged up every week because of the offensive line. So now they've got a star receiver, just like Rutgers has. So that's, once again, Rutgers has got to stop that big play, because if they allow the big time number one receiver for Penn State to have 2 50-yard touchdown passes, they have no chance.
Correct. You're talking about John Dotson?
Yes.
Yes. Correct.
He's going to be he's probably as high as a third round draft pick when he comes out.
Yeah, I think he's a second round draft pick. He's a little like Chris Olave from Penn State, maybe a taller version of Chris Olave from Penn State, and God knows from Ohio State, and God knows Rutgers have their trouble with them. So
yeah. Now the good thing is that that's all Penn State has. They have one major playmaker on offense, which is why their offense has just not been very good this season. They've been led by their defense, and that's and again, you got Rutgers. That's why I said the offensive line. Hopefully, they can keep Vedral upright as often as possible, because if he gets harassed and there's turnovers, it's just not going to work out. It won't be a pretty day. But look, we talked about it last week. The same thing with Indiana. And the only difference is Penn State's a much better program, a much better team. It's a much bigger rivalry. Even though it's not a rivalry, but it's a location rivalry kind of thing for kind of bragging rights for the area. And Penn State's not going to fall asleep that much like Indiana. And if Rutgers does win, it won't be 38-3. It'll be more like 9-7. So, but I agree. I agree. That's why I said I agreed with everything Keith said. And, I think we're all on the same wavelength here that Rutgers has a shot. And if they're going to be able to do this, this is as good as an opportunity as they're going to have.
So what's your score prediction?
I'll say Rutgers hangs in there, covers the game. I'll say something like 17-9.
What's the spread?
The spread is 18.
Wow.
By the way, Rutgers is 3-2 straight up, 4-1 against the spread on the road this season, and 6-3 straight up, 8-1 against the spread on the road since Schiano's return, and that includes a very competitive loss to Michigan. So it's not just these lower level type teams Rutgers has played well against on the road. Rutgers has covered 3 of the last 4 against Penn State, allowing just 26.2 points per game. So a lot of so it's not like Penn State's been doing Ohio State to Rutgers. It's been these 27-7, 10 type of games. Also, Penn State just 1-9 against the spread in their last 10 at home, following a home loss. So I see Rutgers definitely covering the game unless they have multiple turnovers.
Yeah, I love Rutgers as a cover, no doubt. So I sent you an email just a minute ago. I don't know if you can click on it and share it on your screen for people. I don't know if you have that capability.
I'll take a look.
I sent you a link. I don't know if you can click, if people can see it if you click on it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, should be able to. I see a picture.
It's one of my favorite headlines.
Just the headline?
Just if you click on the link. Yep.
Okay. I'll show it right now. There it is. Ryan Dunleavy's passion for triggering Penn State fans.
On Onward State, which is a Penn State fan site.
Which of the following mobile apps have you used in the last 3 months, Ryan? None of the above. All right, there you go.
Yeah, Onward State and I have had a good back and forth over the years. So it all goes back to, I'll just tell this story real quick. If anybody who knows me probably already knows it. In 2014, Rutgers had like 2,300 yards rushing with 4 different running backs, none of whom got over 500 yards. I mean, they had this backfield of like Robert Martin, Josh Hicks, Desmond Peoples, Paul James, and all these running backs who were all productive behind the offensive line. Rutgers went to a bowl game, and they came back. And I want to say Phil Steele had Rutgers ranked as like the 10th best backfield in the country in 2015. So 2015 comes. Rutgers' first Big Ten game of the season is against Penn State at Penn State. It's Saquon Barkley's first Big Ten game of his career. Saquon Barkley is a former Rutgers commit, and he gets his first carry in the first quarter, and I tweet, I'm not sure where Saquon Barkley would fit in the loaded Rutgers backfield. And, instantly Penn State fans who are some of the most trolliest fans in the world, jumped all over me, instantly said, cold take, this is stupid. And I dug my heels in and I said, what do you like? I'm not saying Saquon's bad. I'm sure he's going to be really good. I'm just saying Rutgers has a really good backfield. Come to, obviously now with 7 years of hindsight, we know Saquon is, a Pro Bowl running back, a number 2 pick in the NFL draft, and none of those Rutgers guys really amounted to much football wise. Robert Martin played, on the Giants practice squad for a bit.
I remember him, yeah.
Yeah, but none ever really professional wise amounted to much in a football world,
And I remember that backfield as well, thinking that they were going to be better than they actually turned out to be.
Correct. As did I, obviously, and I underrated how good Saquon would be. That tweet, even now to this day, still gets some retweets and likes from Penn State fans. To this day, 7 years later, somebody will dig it up probably once a month, and it'll make the rounds. And Penn State like, oh my God, how could somebody ever say something so stupid? Saquon and I have had good jokes about it. Now, on the Giants beat now, Saquon and I have laughed about it many times. And I actually doubled down at one point and said that I thought Ray Rice would be a much better pro than Saquon Barkley. That got quite a uproar too. Not as much as the original, but that caused quite an uproar too. And
hey, he does right now.
Correct. Right now, he's had the better career. It didn't look that way for a while. No. Right now, that one's. But anyway, I have a long history with Penn State fans going back. They think I hate Penn State. I just told it like it was, and I was wrong.
It happens. When you're in this line of business, you're going to be wrong.
When it's your job to first guess, not second guess, you're going to be wrong sometimes. Yeah. So I've always enjoyed the Penn State fan interactions. They're knowledgeable but vicious at the same time. So they're not going to like this, but 17-14 Rutgers.
Oh, right. There you go. We can only hope that because I don't even want to go there.
17-14 Rutgers. That's the pick.
All right. Well, we hope so. Next week when we talk, Rutgers, if they do not pull off the upset of the ages, will be in a win to go bowling or nothing game against Maryland. So that's probably the scenario next week. Look, I just hope they keep everybody healthy because these types of games can, wear down the guys, and especially if it's a close game and they lose and they got to come back next week and they got to win the game and beat Maryland to go bowling. So hopefully, even if they pull out, even if they don't win, I hope everybody, can get back strong, because I don't even know if the linebackers are going to play this week. We don't know about that. They didn't play last week. Maybe they were held out last week just to make sure they were here this week.
Yeah, I hear Greg Schiano has created a Fort Knox atmosphere around Rutgers this week, where very limited access to anybody, very limited practice viewing, very limited interviews. This is one of those, he doesn't want he's trying to get every advantage he possibly can against Penn State. So interesting, obviously he kind of learned his, plied his trade under Paterno for many years, and, it'll be his first game coaching up there. So very interesting storyline, obviously. And
really? He's never coached at Penn State as a head coach?
No.
No. That's interesting. Yeah, didn't even think about that. I'm surprised that they never played each other that much. So how often did they play when he was coached the first time?
Never.
They never scheduled Penn State. Wow. Okay, didn't know that. Well, he's going to be pretty excited, even though he's not going to let anybody else know that, but you know how he's going to be feeling. All right, well, I hope he feels even better when we talk next week. But either way, the win over Indiana puts Rutgers in a situation that even if they do not win this week, they have a chance to go bowling next week against Maryland. So we'll talk about that and much more here on the Rutgers Football Report. So, Ryan, appreciate it as always. And I'm sure you're going to have an article. You're going to write a special article if Rutgers beats Penn State, right?
I will not. I am.
Yes, you will. You say that
now. I am on a personal day on Saturday, but I promise the Post will have something if Rutgers beats.
Yeah. How's the weather supposed to be? You know?
I don't know. No.
You don't even
Beautiful
know?
Right now.
All right. Well, I can, hopefully it's gloomy, one of those gloomy late November type of Saturdays. I think that could help Rutgers more than a nice sunny, clear day. All right, Ryan, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.